Namaskar. I welcome you all to this 31st International Management Conclave of Indore Management Association.
A very good morning to everyone present here. I am Rashmika Tiwari. I request AV team to play the session AV, please.
Session 1.
I request Mr. Saurabh Mehta, Director of Kriti Industries India Limited and Executive Committee Member IMA, to escort our esteemed speakers, Architect Manish Gulati, Principal Architect and Founding Partner, MOFA Studio, Mr. Ramshray Yadav, Founder and CEO, Integrow Asset Management, and Dr. Parimal Merchant, Director Global FMB Programs, SP Jain School of Global Management, to the stage. Architect Manish's visionary leadership has propelled the firm to the forefront of India's design scene, with a diverse portfolio spanning public spaces, institutional buildings, and humanitarian projects. Grounded in sustainability and innovation, Sir's approach underscores the transformative potential of design in addressing global challenges. Mr. Ramshray boasts over 2 decades of expertise in real estate, banking, and investment, with a philosophy rooted in incremental progress leading to substantial impact. He spearheads India's financialization of real business estates. Dr. Parimal specializes in family business education with over 30 years of experience. His unique insights have shaped the landscape of family business culture in India. I request CA Santosh Muchalji, partner Muchal and Gupta Chartered Accountancies and immediate past president IMA, to do the floral welcome of architect Manish Gulati. Mr. Kalpak Gandhiji, Managing Director, Methodex System, to do the floral welcome of Mr. Ramshray Yadav. And can I have Mr. Arpit Jain sir ready? Mr. Arpit Jain, Managing Director, Arihant Capital Markets Limited, will do floral welcome of Dr. Parimal Merchant. I request the AV team to play the introduction AV for Mr. Ramshray Yadav.
Mr. Ramshray Yadav, founder and CEO of Integrow Asset Management, is an alumnus of Harvard Business School. He is a leading proponent of India's real estate. Mr. Yadav has over 20 years of experience in construction, real estate, banking and investment, and has built multiple businesses from scratch. His thought philosophy is firmly rooted in multiple small steps aggregating to quantum leaps and exponential impact. Integrow Asset Management is India's first real estate-focused asset management company. Integrow is at the forefront of the financialization of real estate assets of every class and aims to democratize ownership by ensuring every Indian has a real estate wallet. He is also a board member of India's first listed PropTech company, Aurum PropTech, which has several investments in property technology companies in areas of CRM, blockchain, fractionalized ownership, metaverse, co-living and co-working software platforms. Prior to this, he was CEO of real estate advisory practice, Edelweiss Financial Services Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome Mr. Ramashray Yadav.
Good morning, everyone. I think that's a good arts to start with. I thought I will end with that, but it seems that's the first screen. I have put a lot of numbers together. It's please don't get confused or carried away with that. It's an engagement for next 20 minutes, which I thought I will talk about. Can we start this presentation from the first page? No. Yeah. Yeah. So the magic is already out at last, where I had to spend time on that piece of art. I'll talk briefly about what, and you will figure out how. And I think in the morning when Professor Himanshu and my friend Alpesh, they spoke largely about why. So why is taken care of? And I thought, let me bring some what's, and what a better way than setting the context that what is really happening in the country currently. And all the numbers that I talk about are simply setting the context, and then we'll talk about the challenges and what as entrepreneurs or leaders that you are supposed to do if you can pick a leaf from these 20-minute conversation. I think my job would be half done. So that's what I'm here for. In India, there are basically three themes at play. And the first one is robust demand that we have seen in last 20 years. A very, very robust policy framework that we have seen in last 10 years. Pretty bold from the governance side. And third one is India becoming the global magnet for investments. I've been in the career for last about 24, 25 years, have covered as seeking investment from India, almost 70% of the globe between US, Europe and Asia. But the kind of respect for India and Indian entrepreneurs that we have seen and witnessed till 2010, 2015 and what we witnessed today, there is a complete 180-degree shift towards India, the way people look at. And I think this plays a very, very important and vital role in why it is important and how can we manage that magnetic field towards attracting the investments in India. Historically, we have been a capital-starved nation. And today, if you look at the amount of foreign reserves, they are almost 500 times if we compare to 1993. And that is the core that how India's story has been unfolding. And as I say, this is just the start. This is just the tip of where we have to really go. My point given to me today was about Indian infrastructure and how the investment is shaping up there, we touched a total investment of about 100 billion. That 100 billion mark was touched in 2021. And as we speak now, for 24-25, that amount stands projected at about $134 billion. For the first time in this country, the government exceeds the targets of spending on infrastructure, and I hope 134 will end somewhere at about 140 to 150 range, and we all are pretty confident about it, and these are our own numbers. What is happening with this infrastructural growth? There are basically three themes at play. The first theme is that the rural income is increasing exponentially. From mere 150 rupees as minimum wage, we have come up to about 375 rupees. Now, from numbers, it still looks very, very small for a country of our kind. But if you look at how this jump has happened and that doubling, it took 20 years for us to double to that 150, and then it has only taken about 7 years to double from there. And from where we stand, we are very confident that the next doubling will happen in about 5 to 6 years. The second one is the industrial growth, the manufacturing growth. Yesterday, the numbers of GDP came out, which is about 8.8% compared to, for the quarter, compared to the expectation of about 6.6. But what intrigues me is not the 8.8, but the industrial growth of top 8 industries in India has grown by 11.5%. And that is the real impact that we are seeing of the One Plus China policy from the global perspective. And you will be surprised that this growth is not matching to the exports still. Government is trying to do many things, many policies where the export increases, and even at a 10% incremental export growth from the country, our manufacturing and industrial growth will grow almost consistently at 10% for next 15 to 16 years. So that's the opportunity that lies there for manufacturing. The third one, which our company and I specialize in, is the real estate. Currently, we are at a size of just about $300 billion odd, and that number is going to grow to about $1 trillion in next 8 to 9 years. And that's the kind of growth we are talking about. If you look at the real estate specifically, the growth, last year in 2023, the total sale of residential apartment was about 4.5 lakh crores, about 38% growth from the 22. If you look at that number of 4,50,000 crore, that was the total saving size of the country in 1997. So that's what we are seeing in terms of growth. The total grade A office buildings in India today are at about 700 million square feet. The total number of new commercial office spaces, which are in construction today and will get completed between 4 to 7 years, stands at about 600 million square feet. What we delivered and what we are using for last 23 years, we are going to see that same amount of delivery in next about 6.5 to 7 years. And this, if you look from a global crane index, India stands at number 1. Just for you to know, crane index basically is an index to measure how much of construction activity is happening in any country. We have 27% of global cranes deployed in country right now. And that will give you a size of where the infrastructure and real estate is moving from current size. So that's the push to the real estate that we will see going forward. Why this growth is happening? and I call it as 300 days of change of India's destiny that has happened in last about 35 to 40 years of the economic reforms in this country. The last big push that we saw was between 92 to 93, when the liberalization came, the digitization started happening between 95 to 96, and that's where you see a very, very highly competitive global market, which is about $3.7 trillion today. That same moment has happened between November 2016 to July 2017, and those are the 300 days, I say, which are the defining moments of where this country is moving. In November 2016, we had the demonetization, the much talked about. There are both the sides of the story, but still it's a big change. The second one was the RERA in May 2017, and third was the GST in July of 2017. This 300 days, ladies and gentlemen, is the real pivotal shift of what we will see this country in next about 25 to 30 years. What has happened with this three big changes? Today, if we talk about in terms of number, is when it comes to real estate, and I wrote a small article a couple of weeks back that is the real estate the armpit of the universe or the dream builders? And there must be developers here, at least couple of them who will be sitting. One of the big challenges is the way the perception of real estate industry has been set in this country. And that largely happens because of the practices and lack of investment in the governance that the developers have actually invested towards. And that job has been made easy through RERA. After RERA and the formalization today, we have 26 states who have adopted the RERA. There are about 96,000 projects which are registered. Now you can really get the hang of the data that what is happening in this country. And out of this 96,000, roughly only 7 micro markets hold about 80% of the inventory. So the real growth which will happen in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities is yet to start. We have been taught, and there is a language that metros, we have always restricted ourselves to the 4 key metros in the country. But as you would realize, now there are 12 metros and 20 satellite cities already in place today. It's just the enabling the new language of talking what would be the definition, new definition of the new metros, and people will start talking about it. But there are now 32 districts in India which are propelling the economic growth. And this says a lot about why the financial or commercial activity from just couple of states is now spreading across. Northeast was not even in the picture. Northeast is a new propeller of the growth. And this has also happened not only because of the policy, but also the competitive spirit of the states. If you look at the investor summits in last about 6 months, there are 4 states which have set their agenda to reach $1 trillion economy at the state level. If these are the 4 states going to $1 trillion each, we are still at 3.7, and we talk about 5 trillion by 2030. My sense is it will be little earlier than that. And why we are so confident about why will this happen, at least in the real estate. Our mortgage to GDP ratio is at about 11%. Even if we look at China, it is at 18% now. So there is a huge space. I'm not even talking about where US is, because the culture itself is borrow and enjoy the life, or consumerism through credit. Even if we leave that culture aside, for the massive, the demographic advantage we have and the amount of, the banking regulations in the worst of the times, even in 2008 and 9, the way our regulators have really stood ground is commendable. And I think that's where goes that it is in our DNA to be careful, to be risk averse, to walk the mile one at a time. And I think this DNA, if we are able to preserve, and which we are very sure we will, I think it's not just the growth, but also the sustainable growth. This is the magic which I believe personally, which is the core to why India will keep growing. We are a hungry nation. And hungry, when I say it, today we are at about $2,300 per capita income. In any economy globally, the real magic, the real behavioral change towards consumption happens in that range of $2,000 to $6,000 per capita income journey. We are at 2,300, and next 11 years, as we scale this per capita income, I think that's the core that you have to. So this will change the behavior towards how we think about real estate, how we think about lifestyle, how we think about the other consumption. So from a real estate perspective, triangulating how the infrastructure growth has happened, this is one number that we need to keep in mind that will be the real propeller of growth in this country. Now comes the favorite picture. And this is a picture created by an artist when I was speaking in one of the seminars, and I kept on shuffling between the opportunity and the challenges. And he presented this picture to me saying, this somehow represents what you're talking about. And I'm in a very great place of Indore, the place where Ahilyabai Holkar, belonged to. And I thought, why not bring this to the context of management? I think the best managers are the women. And there's no doubt about it. The kind of, skill they show in using the 8 hands of managing the house, managing the emotions, and then now managing the businesses and the policies. I thought this picture would do the justice of where we are coming from. I think in this country, we need to be sure of challenges in place. The opportunity I talked about, but there are many, many challenges that we have to really think about. And the first one in that series is, from the global perspective, the aging global population. I think what China could do between late 80s to early 2000, they had a increasing consumerism across the globe, including the West. Today, as we look at our economy, we are looking at, and Alpesh talked about a huge number, even within our country, of growing and aging population. We are left with a global economy where we have to really think about the aging population. The second is the unstable and unkind neighborhood. I'm not taking the names of the countries, as Professor Himanshu mentioned, to remain politically, neutral. But unstable neighborhood is one of the biggest challenges for India. And we really have to account for it when we are thinking about the business from the global macro perspective. The third one, we all talk about technology, and our friend Manish was talking about how AI is changing the design and the landscape of what we do. But there are also the challenges. We cannot comprehend what technology will do. In one of the companies where we are invested through the PropTech platform, runs the third largest co-living platform with about 23,000 beds. And when we did the survey, that the youngsters who are either students or the first time job employees from STEM, science, technology, engineering, and maths, of all the parameters, that why would they choose a particular house to live. It was not the facilities, it was not, the community, it was not even the kind of building and neighborhood and location. The first preference was given to the degree of Instagrammability. And I'm talking about 23,000 beds being managed by a company. Now, this is the age that we live in. And that's a challenge, because most of the technologies, Alpesh talked about UPI, 7 years in existence, 12 billion transactions in a month. It has changed the banking forever. Now, this can happen in your business, this can happen in your industry, and you need to be really taking this macro factor in account. And I think most of other macro factors you still can predict and project. But when it comes to technology, you have to get every day morning and think about what is happening. We were also fascinated with Chat GPT, which came in December of 22. And before we have really, settled with that technology, we are now talking about Copilot and a new AI platform called as Pop AI, where you just put the entire document, be it 2,000 pages, 4,000 pages, just put that document in popai.pro and you can question anything, including you put an annual report and ask what's wrong with the company and it will give you some answer. So that's the kind of technology. I mean, overnight, not only journalism, but the profession of accounting is at stake because of one technology. So that's the third one. On local side, there are basically three challenges. The first being, we are moving from farm to formalization of our India's biggest challenge is how do we engage the young farmers, increase their income, or bring them to the stable industrialized society. I think that's a big divide that locally this challenge will have to be addressed and you need to be careful about. The second is the bridging the wealth divide. While India is growing, we are talking about $2,300 per capita income, but India is not one India. We all must realize India is three Indias. 3 to 4% of people are in that 80 to 85,000 or moving towards that $80,000 to $85,000. About 40% of people are struggling in the middle class between the $4,000 to $8,000, and rest are struggling to make that $2,000. And I think this is where I say that there are three Indias within one India. The third challenge is maintaining the bold policy stance. At the end of the day, we are a democracy, and most of the decisions that are made from the perspective of who comes to the power in next 5 years and who controls the policy making. We have been very lucky that policy making has been very consistent, but you need to take care of this aspect of the economy. So that's the local and global. Now, what do you do in this? I mean, I talked about the opportunity and the challenges. So what do you do? The first thing is adapt to innovation. You have to consistently ask yourself a question and maybe take your balance sheet and provide a particular percentage of capital to innovate. Whether you innovate on the edge or you innovate through startups, you do whatever you want to do, but to remain in the business and to remain significant, you need to adapt to technology through innovation. The second is invest in risk management. While we talk about opportunity, in Indian corporate houses, if you see, the average age of large growing companies in a particular area is only 11 years. every 11 year you see the market cap of 100 companies, 70 would have gone. 30 companies which have either, grown in other businesses or have invested, they have really survived and grown. But that's a big challenge. And not many companies think about risk management. Of all the 4,000 actively traded companies on the stock market, it is a pity that only 150 companies have CROs, the chief risk officers. And that says a lot about what we think about. We have to respect the risk. We don't have to really sit at home, but we have to respect. We have to really know about it. And the third one is, which Professor Himanshu spoke about, so I'll just touch upon, is find the purpose to the profit. If you do not have it, you'll take the shortcuts. And we have seen in 22, we had 67 unicorns. In 23, we had 3 unicorns. But what is most important is the value of all the unicorns combined has come down by 40%. And if you really ask one single reason, it's not the market. It's the risk and the governance that the country overall has missed upon. So with that, I'll end this discussion, and I hope we can have the discussion on the side. Thank you.
So, you did mention that one should not get carried away. But your presentation of what magically had us glued into dreaming big. Can I request our session chair, Mr. Saurabh Mehta, to summarize the session, please?
Ladies and gentlemen, we've just had the pleasure of listening to 3 very enlightened speakers. And now as we navigate this cosmic expanse of their thoughts and ideas to a well-deserved lunch, let's just quickly summarize what they spoke about. I think when we talk about architect Gulati Saab, I think he really summarized very well what we heard in the previous session on fragility. And I think it's a classic example of how the future of construction and design and how can we really embrace the technology that we have. We heard about the urbanization that is going to grow from 35%. And I think these are the ideas, this is the technology which will help us to be bold, to not make mistakes, and if we do make mistakes, cut our losses in time and really continue to grow. We had Mr. Yadav, who spoke about the entire global perspective on the Indian real estate and how it is growing. He spoke about the China +1 and the opportunity that it brings about for us. And then he again emphasized the importance of data and availability of data through RERA and other means, which are really unlocking the opportunities which are there in the Tier 1, Tier 2, and even in a regional city. Where do we grow and how do we invest? He also highlighted some of the concerns, the macro indicators, which work in the favor of India, but also the cautions which could go against the story that we have. And finally, we had Professor Merchant, who is also my teacher, who really set the tone, helping us absorb all of this by being at peace with ourselves. And I think the key points from here I would take away are: don't complicate simple things, learn from your environment, and keep jumping for opportunities. And I think that's the essence of what he said. And also the importance of family business, where we must build layer upon layer to continue to grow the business and add a lot of value. So friends, I think these 3 wonderful speakers have really set the context for the session 1 of this conclave. And now I would like to invite you for lunch. Thank you.
I would request Dr. Dilip K. Patnaik, Vice Chancellor, Medicaps University, Indore, to present the memento to Architect Gulati. I would request Mr. M.S. Shekhar, Vice President Operations, Commercial Vehicles, to present the memento to Mr. Yadav. And I would request Ramatar G. Jaju, President RPL Maheshwari College, to present memento to Dr. Merchant. We are breaking for lunch now, and I request everyone to be back in 30 minutes so we can stick to our schedule, please. Thank you.